one of the major digital health stakeholders by default in terms of just being one of the folks that are ubiquitous in healthcare on the database and on the CRM and on the software side is Salesforce. And Dr. Geeta Nayyar, a longtime friend and a colleague and someone who's really been promoting healthcare and life sciences for years. Obviously, being the chief medical officer, she has a tremendous stake in healthcare to begin with. But welcome to the program, Geeta. Great to talk to you. Great to have you on and hear more of your insights around what's happening with digital health, what happened at JP Morgan. Obviously, you're in Miami. Salesforce Towers in downtown San Francisco, right next to where all the JP Morgan conference and sub-conferences take place. About 100,000 people having all these adjacent conferences next to the main kind of 3,000 or 4,000 person conference on Union Square. But would love to hear more about your background, if you could introduce yourself to our audience, and then obviously dive into some of what you learned at JP Morgan.
Sure. Well, first of all, Stan, if I can still stay at happy belated New Year, great to see you. Thank you for having me. As far as my background, so I'm a rheumatologist by training. I'm the chief medical officer here at Salesforce, based in Miami, in San Francisco frequently. Got back from JP Morgan not too long ago. And really my role, or people in roles like mine, has kind of an internal and external component. So on the internal side, it's working with product development to bring good products to market and bring that clinical lens to the product world if we're trying to serve other providers or the pharma space or just the industry in general. Because of COVID, my role has also expanded to have an employee health aspect to it, and really have to say, I think we did our best during a very tough time and have enjoyed being an ambassador to many of our employees as we all struggled with that. And then externally, to be really that spokesperson for our products, our services, and as a thought leader in the industry, bringing awareness to any variety of issues, health equity certainly being one of them.
That's fantastic. And then relative to JP Morgan, tell the audience a little bit about what you saw happening around healthcare and with the conference this past month.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think everyone was excited to be at JP Morgan in person. I think it was alive and well, both the conference and of course all the energy and activities around the conference that we all enjoy and get to learn from. And I think there were some themes that are pretty obvious at this point. We certainly are in a tough economic climate. So lots of discussions around cost cutting, lots of discussions around strategizing, consolidating where and when possible, but certainly investments in technology, driving efficiencies, particularly on the side of the providers when we think about workforce shortages that remain a plague of the provider system, but also lots of talk of innovation, lots of talk of innovation, making sound bets that are based off of core business and business functions, not forgetting innovation, but being very thoughtful about the core and then wanting to grow. But those are just the general themes.
That's absolutely, I think, what we've heard a lot of already today, and a lot of other insights and a lot of other feedback on the JP Morgan conversation that's been taking place. And from the standpoint of Salesforce, obviously a key player in the digital health ecosystem, given the fact that so many hospitals, so many life science companies, and obviously a tremendous number of health plans and medical clinics are using it as a backbone, as well as many digital health startups that have been funded 5, 10, 50, 100 million, $200 million in the case of Transcarent. What do you see in terms of the missing piece of the JP Morgan conference when you look at where digital health is, and especially with diversity, equity, and inclusion, where are you seeing the digital health community, and what kind of conversations were you seeing there around JP Morgan and in abroad this year?
Sure. So, as far as the health equity issue, I think the industry has come a long way in that we've acknowledged it, right? This is not a topic you and I discussed a couple of years ago. It simply was not as much on anyone's priority list. I think in that regard, we certainly have acknowledged it. We are trying, I think everyone in the industry, whatever corner they belong to, are trying to be relevant to that issue. But I think there is also an acknowledgement that technology is only one part of the health equity issue as we think about communities and underserved areas and rural areas, there are so many infrastructure issues, cultural issues that technology is simply not going to be able to solve. But for the pieces that we can solve, and we've seen this with telemedicine, increasing access, increasing education, we certainly made strides. But we have a long way to go. I mean, our CEO just signed off on the Gwen Health Equity Pledge. I think it's a great start at the World Economic Forum, and you can see the different things that both our CEO and many CEOs committed to. But the short and the long and short of it is a commitment to the issue, commitment to accountability of the issue, studying the issue, bringing more awareness, asking our constituents and stakeholders, what are you doing about it too, right? There's strength in numbers, and trying to solve it. So I think that the pledge was certainly really good to see happen at the World Economic Forum with some really big players. And so I'm hopeful that we continue to keep this on the priority list.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And that's certainly a major area of need on several levels. Particularly some of the studies that we're doing at the lab focus on looking at how algorithms are being built. And are they being built with DEI and diversity, equity, and inclusion? Really thought about and put in thoughtfully as the algorithm is being built, as the AI and machine learning tools are being honed in. So that's absolutely spectacular. And tell us a little bit more, from your standpoint and from what you're looking at, what are some of the lessons learned that we can really build upon relative to health equity in 2023, and where can we learn from what's been done over the last, as you mentioned, really picking up about 3 years ago, and build on those for the next few years?
Well, the first thing I hope we all remember is that we're only as strong as the weakest of us, right? We saw that very much with the pandemic. So I think that's a reminder. But two, small things go a long way, whether we're talking about TikTok, whether we're talking about your neighbor. We are living in an era of misinformation and disinformation. And so as we think about the pitfalls of technology, but the opportunities with technology, I was just addressing an employee group yesterday, and they asked me, what should we do? And I said, for our health this year, and I said, you should get a doctor and talk to a doctor before you're sick. You can schedule a virtual consult just to have a conversation, just to establish a relationship, to answer your questions, because the communities hit hardest by misinformation and disinformation are those that are underserved. They are the Black and brown communities. They are the most vulnerable, and they are the most victimized. It might seem like a small thing, but I think you and I saw that those small things go a long way. And technology has a role to play in simple communication and education, whether you want to call it marketing or patient education, patient engagement. But the point is to build that trusted relationship in an omni-channel approach, but that leads back to a human relationship. It's going to go really far, particularly in those communities.
This is fantastic. And again, Geeta, thank you for your leadership in this absolutely critical area relative to what's happening in digital health. Having someone like yourself really make sure that it's something that people are going to follow on and commit to and be a part of. So for the audience, again, hundreds of people around the world watching and tuning in, Geeta's LinkedIn page was just pointed inside the web chat. Please do connect with her. She is absolutely passionate, as you've already seen today, about digital health and digital making a difference in healthcare and medicine. And again, as the Chief Medical Officer for Salesforce, there's really very few people that can help at the level that she can. So again, thank you very much, Geeta, for joining. Looking forward to catching up with you again soon.
Likewise. Thanks for having me, Stan.